Cool. Okay, good evening everyone. My name is Jack Watson, the Activities Officer this year, and it is my pleasure this evening to welcome you to this year's candidate questions for the 2025 Students' Union Full-Time Officer elections. Elections are a really exciting time in the Students' Union calendar. It's an opportunity to hear from a range of student leaders and their vision for the future of our union, university and community. This evening will be a relaxed and informal event. Whatever happens, putting yourself out there to be an election candidate is a massive challenge. And we just want to say that with that in mind, there are a few things that I'd like to run through to help ensure this event runs as smoothly as possible. This evening, we're going to be hearing from candidates for Students' Union President, Education Officer, Wellbeing Officer and Activities Officer. There may be some challenging topics and around issues that students face as part of the event this evening. So if anyone feels like they are overwhelmed or need to have some quiet time, then please do feel free to step out into the foyer or the kitchen area of this building, should you need to do so. If there's anything specific that you would like to see from us to be more accessible for you, then please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I want to thank our excellent student media team for providing live coverage this evening. So thank you to LA1 TV and welcome to anyone joining us as a viewer on their live stream. In a moment, we're going to move into hearing from the candidates. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to provide an opening statement. I ask if candidates can please pay attention to the time limit presented to them on the screens in front of you. So when you get down here, you'll see on the TVs. Should you last longer than 2 minutes, you may have a subtle reminder from the chair that you've gone over your time. Once opening speeches have concluded, candidates will then have the opportunity to ask one group question to the other candidates. Candidates have 30 seconds to respond to any and all questions asked of them this evening. Questions will then be open to the floor, either by show of hands in the room or submitted by using the Microsoft form that will be shared online. Please try to refrain from entering questions directly into the chat function. You may notice that in the interest of time, we will not be able to take all questions this evening. This is to prevent candidate questions running on for an inaccessibly long amount of time. If your question isn't asked, then I would really encourage candidates to engage with people in person and online. There are a range of opportunities throughout campaigning to hear questions and answers from candidates, and this forms one part of those opportunities. Any questions that are not asked from submissions to the online form will also be circulated to candidates after the event so that they can provide a response if they wish. I should remind all voters that reopen nominations as a candidate in all union elections. Voting opens tomorrow at 10 a.m. on Tuesday the 4th of March until 6 p.m. on Thursday the 6th of March. Should you have any questions or complaints about the process, please email lancastersuelections@lancaster.ac.uk. Okay, we're going to now move on to hearing from our candidates. All candidates in this upcoming election are running for one of 4 full-time officer positions, which more colloquially we call FTOs. FTOs are paid full-time roles for the most senior officers of the Students' Union. They play a central role in the running of the union, helping to shape its policies and guiding the way that it operates. We will start with candidates for the position of Wellbeing Officer. This section will be chaired by Harrison, current Education Officer, with support from Ella, who's the current Wellbeing Officer. I'm going to hand over to those now.
Hello, everyone. I hope this is on. Yeah, it sounds on. Jack has very kindly introduced us already. So, yeah, hello. Harrison and...
I'm Ella, the current Wellbeing Officer.
Hi. I guess we'll jump straight into it. So I'm going to give you a little brief overview of what the Wellbeing Officer is, and then we'll jump into some questions. So the Wellbeing Officer leads campaigns and activities related to students' wellbeing issues. They act as the lead student officer responsible for responding to national wellbeing issues and chairs the Wellbeing and Inclusion Subcommittee of the Union, which facilitates liberation campaigning, develops wellbeing policy, and disseminates information about the university's progress and work on relevant projects. So we've got 3 candidates, including reopen nominations, and then we've also got Eliza and Leah. So we've got 2-minute open speeches, then we've got a cross-examination question, and then we'll go for the attendee and pre-submitted questions. So I'd like to ask Eliza to start with their speech, please.
Thank you. My name is Eliza Young, and my pronouns are they, them. A big part of my campaign is about transparency for harassment reporting. This is sexual harassment, racial, religious, and gender-based harassment. I myself have been a victim of homophobic slurs in town. And I cannot imagine how upsetting it must be to be victim to that on campus where you're supposed to be safe. There is zero tolerance for that kind of behaviour. As many of you might know, I'm a part of the Palestine encampment. But I want to make it clear now that Palestine will not be my primary function. My empathy is not a finite resource, and I will apply myself equally to every part of my job. And this includes accessibility to cost of living aid. At the moment, you need to get a physical ticket from the LUSU offices, go past the receptionist and into LUSU to access the food pantry. That's not accessible, it's intimidating, and it's not good enough. Vote Young.
Thank you very much. And over to Leah.
Cool. Hi, I'm Leah. My pronouns are she, they. And in terms of the experience I've got for this role, I was Vice President of Welfare and Campaigns for a year. I was the LGBTQ plus delegate at the National Union of Students Liberation Conference last year. I am currently working on a campaign for period equality and the provisions of free menstrual health products across campus. And last year I worked with Children in Need on funding a nationwide mental health support system for young people. In regards to the policies that I'm running on, I really want to see a much more proactive and person-based mental health service that is trauma-informed and less reliant on self-help. I really want to create a service that actually has the capacity to deal with students that have more severe problems. I'm also running on a policy of increasing town safety for students. Violence and sexual offences in town are 2% higher in Lancaster than the national average. And I don't think it's acceptable that the university relies on the fact that it's separate from town as like a way to not be involved in the well-being of its town-based students. I'm also campaigning for the provision of free, accessible and inclusive menstrual products across campus in every bathroom, male, female and accessible. And I'd also like to see a lot more structured and guided support for student initiatives and campaigns. Yeah, vote for me, please.
Thank you very much to both candidates. So now we have an opportunity for each candidate to ask each other a question, and then we'll move over to the questions from you guys and the questions online. So I'll flip and I'll start with Leah's question.
Cool. Okay, so my question is, as Wellbeing Officer, the Liberation Campaigns Officer will fall under your remit. Those Liberation Campaign Officer roles are currently under review. Do you think that the system is currently effective enough? And if not, what would your plans be to change this?
Thank you. I think I would have more meetings with liberation officers and widen their abilities. I know for a fact that some liberation officers feel limited by their role. There are some things that they feel they cannot do, and that's not right. The jurisdiction of the liberation officers is the students. If they feel there is a campaign or an initiative that they need to do, they will have my full support, and I will lobby management consistently to help them do that.
Yeah, over to you.
All right, my question is, if you win, would you be willing to continue my campaigns?
Yes, absolutely, of course I would. I believe it's so fundamental that students sort of use their political voice that they have, and any student campaign that is ongoing or happens in the future that is in the efforts of improving student well-being, quality of life and lived experience, I would 100% do everything in my power to support that and make sure it progresses.
Thank you very much to both candidates. So now we're going to move to questions that have been submitted online and maybe some questions from the floor as well. So I'll just move my laptop so I can see. So this is a question to both candidates. This role is the least contested and there are no male candidates, unlike other roles which are dominated by male candidates. Do you think this role is undervalued by some or all of the student community? And if so, why? Move to Elizabeth, please.
That's a great question. I was actually thinking that myself. I think well-being is undervalued. I think it's seen as like a traditional female role. like caring and stuff like that, but obviously it's not. Wellbeing affects every single student. Campaigns affect every single student, especially like, as we were talking about, period poverty, the Palestine campaign. It shouldn't be undervalued, but I do think it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do think roles such as this one and like wellbeing roles across the board in like student execs are significantly undervalued, and I think the problem there is that people don't really understand what they're for or what the job is. So I think when LUSU, for example, changed this role from welfare to well-being, I think that really, really summarised what this role actually is. It's political rather than operational. And I think people sort of misinterpret that and think that these roles are sort of to be sort of a personal therapist almost for students, when in actual fact it's representing students on social issues that matter to them. And I just think there's sort of a misunderstanding of what this role actually is.
Fantastic, both. Thank you very much. I'm going to move to a question from the floor. Straight away. Thank you very much, Polly.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Sorry, I'm so high up. So as a city councillor who represents the university board, wellbeing of the students is at the heart of everything that I do. I'm aware of the many failings of the LUSU investigations into sexual assault. Do you think that the current investigation system works? And if not, what are your plans to change this?
Can I ask if this is a question to the floor or a question just to one candidate?
To the floor.
To the floor. Fantastic. Yes, please, thank you.
To be completely transparent, I'm not 100% well versed in the way the LUSU investigation system works when it comes to sexual misconduct. It is something that I have been quite heavily invested in, and I've been in discussions with the current Women's Plus LCO and the current Wellbeing Officer about potential policy changes. I think what I would like to see is just more actual sort of face-to-face conversations with students about what they feel these problems are, and just to sort of really ensure that safety of students is the #1 priority. Thank you.
I think there are a lot of problems with the way sexual assaults can be reported. I myself reported a physical assault to the university. This was during a protest. I was put in a chokehold and dragged to the floor by a security guard. That's not relevant, but what I was told is not to go to the police. If you have been sexually assaulted and you go to management, people you trust, and they tell you not to go to the police, you're not going to. And I think 17% of rape victims, only 17% of them go to the police. That is a very low figure. And how we can help increase reporting, because the low reporting figure isn't because only a low amount of people get sexually assaulted. It's because they don't feel comfortable, they don't feel safe, they don't think they're going to be believed. So what needs to happen is it needs to be clearer. It needs to be on the LUSU website. And so if it's more accessible for people, it's going to be done quicker. And then the actual investigation can be done quicker. And there needs to be long-term support for victims, not just after, once it's done, you get an apology. I mean, I got an email with a link to a Word document with a paragraph saying, "our bad," essentially. That's not enough. So that's what I would do.
Thank you very much, Eliza. I'm going to pass the mic back over to you. There's a question from online. The role of an FTO requires being approachable to students. How would you like to establish clear communication between students and yourself?
That's a brilliant question. Firstly, I think I'd want to have bi-weekly drop-in clinics where any student can come and talk to me, discuss their issues and what they want me to do about it. And on my Instagram, I would have pinned on my page a how-to guide of how to complain. So if the students who elect me don't think I'm doing a good job, they can get me out.
Thank you very much. And then back over to Leah, a question from online. You've mentioned pushing the university to offer more protection for students living in town. How do you plan to do this when they've previously dismissed concerns raised about safety on their own campus?
I think when it comes to student safety in town, the biggest issue that I have, and it's something that Eliza actually just mentioned, is when students experience incidents in town, the university just completely wipes their hands of it. It didn't happen on campus, so we have zero responsibility. I understand that there are significant problems of dealing with student safety on campus already, but there is, at the very least, the bare minimum of a way you can report it, as flawed as that is, and as much as that needs changing. For students who experience incidents in town, they're just sort of told it's the police's responsibility, and then they're offered no support on going to the police and how to actually file that report. So I think it's just establishing this sort of, again, like the bare minimum of foundation of support for these students.
Thank you very much. Another question from the floor. Yes, go ahead. Well, let's play this then. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there's a growing issue of drug culture on campus, and I'd just like to hear both of your opinions on this and what you do to almost either curb it or support it, and how you go forward from there.
Drug culture, yes. So we'll go with Leah first, please.
I think I really want to push for a continuation of the harm reduction policies that are in place at the moment. We're at a university, students are going to use drugs, and I just want to facilitate an environment where they are able to do that safely. I don't think it's beneficial for anyone to have a blanket ban. I think that's really harmful and really dangerous. So focusing on harm reduction and education on safe drug use is, I think, really important.
Yeah, I completely agree. Zero tolerance is good politics, but it's not good for students. I think there should be safe drug talks for freshers, because you can tell students all you want, don't do drugs. They're still going to do drugs, right? So it's not about telling them, oh, you can get Kit off Mark from the corner shop. It's saying, don't do Kit with marijuana. You know what I mean? It's just education, not encouragement. It's pretty simple.
Thank you both. Go to the floor again. Any questions from the floor? Is that a hand there? Yep, just behind you, Polly.
So about the drugs, I smelled there's like the smell of drugs and the underpass before, like during like 4 in the afternoon. So it is quite confusing and like it's quite smelly. So how could you deal with this kind of situation that students may do drugs everywhere? Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, is your question on about where students do drugs?
Yeah. Is there any like solution to tell students not to do drugs everywhere, or like is there any like any solutions to do?
So correct me if I'm wrong, in summary, is there places where students shouldn't be doing drugs on campus? What do our candidates think about that?
Well, and also like those places for us to wait those buses. That.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you two comfortable with that question?
No, I do. What I'm saying is that. So it's like, where are students doing drugs, and how can we stop doing them in public places?
I'm pretty sure the question revolves around where students are doing drugs and how we can sort of stop that from happening in public places, maybe. So I'm going to take it as that. So we'll start with Leah first, please, and then go into it, Eliza. Thank you.
I think, again, it just sort of falls under education, right? I don't think there's any realistic way to police where students are consuming drugs, but just sort of involving it in these education practices and just discouraging them perhaps from doing them in communal spaces around big crowds, people who might be uncomfortable around drugs, or, for example, like a asthmatic, for example, and being around smoking is harmful for them. I think just really just pushing that, but I don't think there's any real way to police it. Again, I don't think a blanket ban on drugs is something that will ever really work. I think it is just education.
Yeah, I don't think I've got much to add to that. Yeah, I don't like the smell of marijuana either, but you can't just point to a guy and be like, you, I know you've got marijuana, stop it. I don't think it's a great idea to have like a rule for security to go after the smell of marijuana or drugs or whatever. I think that would go very badly. So again, yeah, just common courtesy, I guess. It's just how it is.
Thank you, and thank you for raising a good issue. I'm sorry if I butchered the question. Thank you to the candidates for helping me out with that. I'm going to go back to a question from online. With the rise of confession pages on social media, what's your opinion on how the Students' Union can better address online harassment and protect the well-being of both students and faculty? Start with Eliza, please.
Yeah, I didn't actually read, I know what it's on about. I didn't actually read the specific, I did actually read the specific one. It was disgusting. I think these are anonymous pages. They're not associated with the uni, apart from the fact that it's uni students. But as Wellbeing Officer, I'd send them a message, detailing that it's not on, it's upsetting people, it's making students feel unsafe. And if there was no response, if it went further, if it kept going, honestly, I'd reckon getting the police involved, because the way that woman was described was absolutely foul. And if we talk about the rape culture triangle, I don't know if you guys know about that, but it starts at the bottom. It starts with the way you talk about people. It's like, I can't say this. I don't know. Oh, I'd shag her, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes on to shouting abuse at women. Then it goes on to upskirting, physical, groping. Then you get to rape, and everyone's like, oh, how did we get here? How did this happen? This is how it happened, and there needs to be zero tolerance for it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think facilitating an environment in which we are educating students about how dangerous content like this can be, but also facilitating an environment where students feel able to come to the union and like report these pages to us, so that we can then hold them to account and make sure that they are policing what they post, and not posting such really harmful and quite frankly dangerous content. So yeah, making sure people are aware of things like what Eliza was talking about, and yeah, just creating a space where like the union is open and people can just like shoot us a message, be like, I saw this thing and it made me feel uncomfortable, and we can say, we'll sort that out for you, don't worry about it.
Yeah, thank you very much to both. Any more from the floor? Yes, straight in front of me. Thank you, Polly.
To the floor, how do you think that the various Liberation and Campaigns forums can best function in conjunction with LUSU? A lot of them have been declining over the last few years, and do you have any ideas on how to fix that?
Okay, so I'll start with Leah, and this is on the support of the officers themselves, the forum themselves, rather than the officers like we discussed before. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think what I really want to do is start by meeting with the officers and asking them what the way their individual forums typically run and what support they need as individuals. Like I know some forums, for example, have execs, others are just run off the officer running their own campaigns and getting as many people involved as they can. So I think, and then offering them more structured support, regular meetings, a sort of LCO assembly, if you will, where they can feed up the problems of the forum to the union and better represent the demographics that their forum contains. I think it is really like a sort of trickle down, like make sure the LCOs are as supported as possible and have that sort of regular structure and guidance, because they're full-time students at the end of the day. They're working as volunteers, so giving them the most support possible will then, I hope, sort of foster these forums to be more vibrant and more inclusive and more represented in the union.
Yeah, I know what you mean. In first year, I went to the LGBTQ forum, and I'm sorry, it was a bit dead. I didn't go back. I have been involved in the LGBTQ community. I myself am gay through the Burlesque Society. I think there's a great way to get more community involved by doing events, collaborations with different societies maybe. And like you said, definitely more communication. I think people might feel left behind, people might feel like they don't know what they're meant to be doing, how it's supposed to be going. I'd want to change that. Conversations is the way to start, definitely.
Thank you. Fantastic. Okay, any more from the floor? Yeah.
Hi. Obviously, you've touched on the kind of lack of kind of males in wellbeing roles at the university and running in this election. But obviously, there is a stigma around men's plus access to wellbeing and mental health services. Do either of you have strategies that might help to destigmatize some of the issues around this?
Start with Eliza first, please.
So destigmatize getting men into wellbeing?
Yeah, destigmatise men's plus access to wellbeing initiatives.
I didn't know there was a men's plus. Is there actually a men's plus forum? Or is...
The question's not on a forum, more on men's plus people accessing initiatives that already exist on campus, as in generic one-size-fits-all mental health support.
Got it. Yeah, I do think there is an issue with people thinking with men's mental health, and I think that begins, and it should, dealing with that should begin in communities, like male-dominated communities. It's about talking to each other, not like men can't cry, that kind of thing. Maybe there should be dedicated spaces for men who should be free to talk about their emotions, that kind of thing. But other than that, I'm not sure quite what you mean. Like access, is it just access to mental health or?
The stigma around men's plus identifying students accessing either wellbeing initiatives or wellbeing kind of services that are available at the university. There's obviously a lot of stigma around men's plus students maybe don't feel comfortable accessing those or reaching out for support, even though those services obviously exist and are open to all students. There can be stigma around men feeling as though it's not as kind of socially acceptable for them to be reaching out and getting the support that they need. And about breaking down those barriers that male identifying students feel on kind of a day-to-day basis that they have to fight through instead of asking for help.
Right, so again to mental health, I think. I'm not entirely sure. I think more conversations, more open spaces, I suppose. And encouragement when people do turn up. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll pass on to Leah.
I think in terms of just any engagement with mental health services, it's about proactivity on the behalf of the university. These mental health services that they have, they're very reliant on self-help and they're kind of hidden away and they're not very person-based. They don't actually engage with students. And I think a more proactive mental health service would involve the university actually reaching out, having these face-to-face conversations with the student body and actually involving them in discussions about mental health, and hopefully sort of by normalizing these discussions and involving students in these discussions and facilitating actual student groups having these conversations will it gradually destigmatize men's plus access to mental health. Obviously it's such a huge problem and it's not going to be fixed overnight, but I do think it just revolves around proactivity, conversations, and just really gradually pushing towards open access.
Thank you very much. I'm going to stop questions there. And I'm going to encourage you to do speak to these people outside of this forum. This isn't the only forum that you can ask candidates questions because both these candidates here are running on very important manifestos, particularly in the contemporary time. So please do reach out outside of this forum. But I will stop there and we'll move on to the next candidate. So yeah, round of applause for both our candidates, please. Thank you.
We will take a short minute to just change over the microphones, etc. Can the activities off? Is that education? The education officers, please come down.
Sorry.
You keep zooming in and out, just because
Sure.
I think your thing is quite visible to people sitting down, and that's okay.
Oh, it's visible.
I believe so.
Sure.
So,
Oh,
stay zoomed
not that
out
much of
until
a quick minute. Huh?
Oh,
Make sure you give everyone ample wee time.
We time. Sure. Can you hear me? Okay.
I think so.
Good.
I assume so.
Ample we time.
Sorry. Is people are leaving again?
Yeah. What time did we start the last one?
27 past or something? There it goes.
14.
There you go.
Another 3. We start at 10 to maybe. Oh, this might be that might be a bit long.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have. We've only got targeted questions. They're going to.
We'll give it another short minute, just hopefully so the other people come back in. So no one else.
Did Harrison go left to right or right to left when he did open? Oh yeah. Okay, we're going to make a start with our next round of candidate questions. The education officer candidates are up next. The education officer is the lead student representative on academic and related issues concerning the development of the undergraduate, postgraduate taught and postgraduate research experience to the university. They focus on education policy development and implementation, quality assurance and enhancement, learning support, facilities and resources, future academic strategy, and tackling inequalities within academia. They must understand the academic structural differences between postgraduate taught and postgraduate research students and the issues they face, which are different to those of undergraduates. The education officer facilitates and supports the work of academic representatives, acting as the lead officer for the recruitment, training, development, and promotion of academic representatives, including lead and faculty representatives. Your candidates for this role are Matthew, Morgan, and Neve. We're going to start with our 2-minute opening speeches. Morgan, would you like to start?
Great. Well, thank you, Jack, and hello and good evening. My name is Morgan, so I'm 4th-year computer science student from Lonsdale. A little bit about my manifesto really is, well, I got 3 big points, a bit like the other candidates. One, sort of increasing the flagship careers fairs on campus, to make a bit more availability towards students. Second, to give a bit more transparency towards postgraduate students. And thirdly, to sort of redevelop the student rep system, faculty rep system, to be a bit more accessible to everyone. I feel like why you should really sort of vote for me compared to other candidates, although everyone's got equal chance, it's a bit that I've got a bit of experience on the academic front, being a past student rep, student ambassador, and an exec on a previous society. So I've sort of been at the forefront of changing education for the better, and I've actually had the privilege of changing our current department education system, or the curriculum, as a positive change that has gained quite a good traction with first years. Other than that, I think with obviously the experience that I do have, and compared to some of the other candidates, I don't have the current experience of being on a JCR or a sports society. However, I believe that my previous academic experience throughout the years does qualify me quite worthy of being your next academic officer. And with that, I say vote for more with Morgan. Thank you.
Thanks, Morgan. Neve?
Thank you. Hello, I'm Neve. I'm a second year fine art student, and I'm the current faculty rep for the Faculty of Art and Social Science. I'm going to run quickly through my main manifesto points because I really want to get on to my experience. But I want reading weeks for all students, I want to spread out assessments and keep deadlines realistic over holidays, and I want to restructure the academic rep system. I mentioned about being a faculty rep, and I really want to explain a bit about that title. I feel previous candidates haven't leaned into this experience. I want to draw parallels to being a college president. You run for being president of LUSU. If you're a wellbeing officer in a JCR, your next step up is being the wellbeing officer at LUSU. And the next run-up for a faculty rep is being education officer. For the last 5 months, I've represented 9 departments in FAS in high-up education committees, where these discussions are frequently around the education policies and student experience. This is no different from the day-to-day roles and responsibilities which an education officer has. I attend Senate, the highest university experience committee, and I do that alongside Keris and Harrison. I've built really strong relationships and connections in FAS, and I'm really confident in my ability to do this across the whole entire university. My experience really sets me apart from my fellow candidates, and it makes me a great choice to be your education officer. Thank you.
Well, hello chaps and chapheads. I am Matthew Lamb, and I'm running to be your education officer. Now, why am I running? Because I have been in education now for a while. I'm a third year, and I just believe that I can impact positive change on campus. We have to reduce class sizes. Class sizes are far too big. We have 250 people in a lecture. That's unacceptable. Also, we have to stop these academic strikes and occupations of our campus. That is a disgrace to the majority of our students. Also, we need to just close the sugar house. We need to sell the sugar house so that we can burn. No, I will tell you why. I will tell you why. You are shouting from a sedentary position, sir. And I will tell you why. Because we can sell it off to a private company, because right now, under the government of the student union, it is making a massive loss. They bought arcade machines, which no one uses, and it is now going completely bankrupt in its finances. So we can sell that instead to a more profitable institution. And we need to save our campus bars because they are in decline. Our campus culture is in decline. And I would ultimately like to say, LUSU is broken. LUSU needs reform. From afuela to education. We will make LUSU great again. God save the king.
Okay, thank you for your opening speeches. I will just remind everyone to stay respectful. This is all for fun, and we're all trying to learn more about each other's manifestos and each of the candidates. We're going to start with a question that was pre-submitted for all candidates. With regards to the curriculum transformation program, how will you allow students to be able to contribute to the conversations happening in departments on the future of their courses? We're going to start in reverse order this time, so Matthew, would you like to start?
Of course, thank you. So the way we do this is through the Department of LU Efficiency. As I said, our students' union is broken. I want to recruit a vast array of volunteers. Anyone on campus can come to me, and we will make a special task force to make LUSU great again and make our university more efficient. Because I'm sick of just sending an email and nothing happens. We need to be there in person to support students on the ground, and I will be there personally to see that any transition works effectively for students.
Thank you, Matthew.
CTP is something that the university has spent lots of time and money around. It's something that is coming up for 26-27. I think it's really important to get students involved, and I'd really encourage students to. Currently, the staff is in phase 2. So currently, staff that are designers for these courses will be reaching out to students, and I really want to encourage students to partake in those conversations. You have a stake in your education here at Lancaster, and I think it's really important you talk to those people and tell how you want your course to be led and how you want the structure for it. I think it's empowering students to really have a claim over their education.
Thank you, Neve.
Well, I think just as like Neve said, the CTP program is huge for the university. It's a massive redevelopment plan of how the curriculum's going on. I think for the students' sake, every student, regardless of who you are, deserves a say in how your education goes forward, especially since you've paid to be here, you need your future, and that's what you're coming here for. And I would just want to have a sort of system where a student at any point of time during the days or weeks during that time and also leading up to the events of the change, that they have the full capability of talking to their student reps, their department leaders, their lecturers, their professors, etc., and also their classmates on how they can feel to improve the subjects that they're taking and how they would like to go forward, ultimately leading towards the actual eventual hopeful change of their course for the better. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take a question from the floor, please.
Yeah, so I think we've had, just a little bit of the discussion about your experience from two candidates. I'd like to just pose a question to Matthew Lamb. Have you had any experience, whether it's this with this student union or other student unions before, if you had any sort of roles within that would be beneficial to your, say, campaign as education officer?
Certainly, and thank you for your service for another students' union at the FCSU. I was also a vice president on that students' union, so I have been a full-time officer, well, sort of part-time in that structure, but I have been on a students' union before. I have been a union assembly delegate. I have been at a Pendle JCR, which has been a brilliant experience, and also I'm the vice president of the Politics Society, so I can work with a wide array of people, and I will be pragmatic with my leadership in that position, and I will always be happy to discuss with anyone, any issue, and we will see what we can do about it.
Thank you, Matthew. We'll take two more questions from the floor, if they can be targeted towards the other candidates, please.
Thank you. This question is for Matthew. You mentioned
Sorry, could we have targeted questions for the other two candidates first?
Oh, I don't have any other questions.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll save you a question for later on. That's okay?
Okay, no worries.
Polly, if you look towards the back, there's a couple of hands. Thank you.
Hiya. I was wondering about Reading Week. I know a couple of you have brought that up. I'd like to know more.
Is that targeted to... Okay. Would you like to target it towards someone?
Anyone, yeah, go for
Anyone? Cool. Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll let them all... do you want to start and we'll go around? Sure.
Yes, so I've explicitly written about reading weeks. At the moment, it's not a standardised process across the university. Some students do get reading weeks, some students don't. I think it needs to be something that across the board happens and is in place. As a LICA student, I get a wellbeing week, and I talk to other departments and other people across in the faculty and the university wide, and they don't get that. It's a really important time to consolidate learning, and especially with this implementation of CTP, where modules are going to be a lot longer, you're going to be stretched a lot more as students. It's going to be really important that these reading weeks are there for student and for the student experience.
Thank you.
Yep, so again, like Lee said, not all departments get reading week. I know as a computer science student, we've had no reading weeks whatsoever in all my time at university. And again, with the CTP program, I believe that all departments should really deserve a reading week, especially with a longer semester or 2 semesters as that's planned. All students are going to probably most likely be stressed, especially towards like the end where they have a more heavy workload. I feel like reading week for all students in all departments is very necessary, especially for mental health reasons and average well-being, and also just like their general education, just so they can sort of get a bit more up to speed if they feel like they're a bit behind on anything they're learning about.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. How many hours a week are you in university realistically, in in-person lectures, workshops, whatever? The truth is there is very little support for students. So instead we just outsource that report and turn it support into another holiday, which means there's even less support for students. Now if you want a nice holiday, you already have 4 weeks for Christmas, 4 weeks for Easter, 3 months over summer. We are very generous with our holidays. And in fact I would even suggest looking at another policy, which is condensing a degree. Instead of 3 years, you can do it in 2 years. And I would say some subjects do have reading weeks, some don't, but some subjects are more strenuous than others. So that is why there is not a reading week. So you really have to look at it by a case-by-case basis. And on that topic, I would say time.
Cheers. Okay, so we're going to take a question for all candidates first. Just a reminder that just to think about some targeted questions for Morgan and Neve. So you can either submit those online or we can sort of take questions from the floor in a minute. But a question for everybody. What is your stance on decolonisation of the curriculum to better create an equal curriculum? We're going to go again, so starting again from Morgan and work our way down the table.
So I think it's a bit of a weird one, decolonisation of making an equal curriculum. If that's a generalised curriculum for like the whole university within students, I believe there should, of course, be maybe some modules or some education standpoints that are provided to all students, regardless of which background you come from or which department you're in. However, obviously each degree is their own and they do obviously tailor towards what you've applied for. In an equal standpoint, yes, I think that students should all have some sort of similar information so they're able to talk to each other about like similar aspects of educational life. However, of course, if you're in departments such as computer science, you may not talk to someone who's in arts about how arts is going along, unless you know you're part of AI art or whatnot. But yeah, I think the whole average equal degrees is a possibility that could be looked towards.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is a really, really good question. I work quite closely with EDI reps, as they are really important about our equality, diversity and inclusion, and decolonisation of the curriculum comes underneath that. With CTP, it's definitely something where, you know, the university are looking to really make sure that, you know, the programs are inclusive by design. I think it's something that in FAS, obviously with lots of humanities and arts degrees, this is something that comes up very frequently, and it's making sure that those department heads and those leads on your courses are making sure that the reading lists and readings surrounding it are inclusive, and they are making sure that there is a wide range of resources. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No. As I said at the start of this, God save the King, you know, I am sick and tired of these decolonisation committees because I am a computer science student. Why do I need to know about this? I don't. You know, I want to know how to code. I don't particularly care about that. If I'm a politics student, okay, fair enough if it's in the curriculum. But from my perspective, I don't need to know, and I am just tired of this being enforced on all aspects of studies, including this climate change education as well. You know, why? You know, I'm tired of, and I am proud of my British history, so no.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, we're going to backtrack a little bit and do cross-examination questions, because we may have skipped over those to begin with. We'll start from the order that we've just, reverse order of what we've just done. So a reminder that each candidate has one question to pose to the other two candidates. Matthew, would you like to go first, and then we'll work our way down?
Certainly. So you have both mentioned in your manifestos about freeing up the Wednesday afternoons. Now, given that we have very few facilities on campus and a vast influx of students, we have over our capacity in the number of students. How will you realistically be able to implement a free Wednesday afternoon without cutting the number of students?
Thank you for your question. I don't think you particularly read my manifesto, as I have not mentioned that as one of my points. It's something that the current education officer and obviously Jack has been working on, and you know is looking at the policies that which the university have in place currently, and making sure that Bucks athletes aren't penalised. I think it's really important that students are allowed to enjoy the extracurricular activities that we have at university. It's something that students really enjoy, and I think it's important that Bucks Wednesdays and Wednesdays for societies and students across the board, it's looked at and opened up. I haven't particularly mentioned it, but it's definitely something that work that I will continue on.
Thank you, Neve. Morgan, would you like to?
So, yeah, I am the only one who's talked about Wednesday afternoons on my manifesto. I think regardless of how many students are at the university, whether it be 200, 500, 6,000 or whatnot, it doesn't really matter whether or not how they go about making Wednesday afternoons free for everyone. Everybody deserves like a free period during the week. It's technically a part of union policy and university policy, and it is proven to support educational standpoints and mental health. So regardless of how many students there are, as you said, I think that Wednesday afternoon should be free for everyone, and everybody should get a place at any point in the university to have that sort of freedom.
Thank you. Neve, question for cross-examination.
So my question is, as a faculty rep, I've worked around CTP and the university's curriculum transformation program for the past 5 months. It's extensive and it's currently in phase 2. I'd like to ask you how much you know about CTP and how you have experience to input the student voice.
Matthew, do you want to go first?
I'm going to be truthfully honest here. Nothing. And I will tell you why I know nothing. Because everything about this entire process is buried in committee rooms that the student populace will never find out about. And that fundamentally needs to change. That is why I say LUSU is broken. LUSU needs reform. We need more transparency. Because I don't have a clue about this committee room. Because I have been told nothing. And I imagine many people have been told nothing as well. So we need to get to grips of this. And that's why I'm launching the Department of LU Efficiency, so we can tackle this issue head on.
Thank you. That's a good question, Neve. So I've been a student rep, or was a student rep for 3 years, and also currently a student ambassador. So I've heard quite a lot about the CTP program throughout since it's been announced. I think, especially as a student ambassador, obviously with prospective students, you have to be a bit careful with how you go about telling them, because obviously things can change. I think obviously, the way I've been told about how CTP works is mainly through hearings through our department, and I've not personally worked with departments to do CTP, although with my experience as being a rep, I've had personal inputs of actually changing, well, currently obviously my own degree for first years, which have seen active change. And again, that's not exactly inherently part of CTP straight away, but is a sort of step forward into that eventual transition into that curriculum.
Thank you. And you can hold on to the microphone for your cross-examination questions.
Can I ask a question to either? Or to both?
It's to both candidates. One question to both candidates.
Okay. I think, my question really is, I guess again, if really the CTP, I know it might not apply to Matthew, but of course, happy to answer, is that I know the Reading Weeks is going to be a part of the CTP program as well, and all, as far as I'm aware, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that all departments are going to be getting a reading week. Is this something that you feel like is obviously going to be good for all the candidate or the students? And if so, is there anything you are willing to change? Should obviously, if everybody gets a reading week, or would you keep it that way, or encourage more well-being weeks like this?
Yeah, go Matthew first.
Thank you. So as I alluded to a bit before, I think it needs to be a case-by-case basis on each individual subject, and that is what the Department of LU Efficiency will be able to tackle. We will be able to look into each individual subject, and therefore we will be able to decide the needs and wants of those students, and I will absolutely listen to those needs and take the feedback into account.
Thank you.
It's a really good question. Thank you, Morgan. So the university makes a lot of promises, and under CTP there is this suggested idea of reading weeks. It's something that I think is really, really important, and I want to make sure that student voice is in those rooms and make sure that that is something that comes to fruition. I think it's also something where not all students, particularly in a certain model, could potentially have them. I know a lot of placement students and people that have, they have to do a certain amount of worked hours to be able to get accredited for the degree. Those are students that need to also be thought about, and it's about the way that timetabling can happen to allow all students to have that time and that respite.
Thank you. Okay, we're now going to go from another submitted question for all candidates. First-year students studying minor courses often have less engagement with academic reps compared to major courses. What do you think the Students' Union can do to increase academic rep activity and support for these students? We're going to start with Neve and then move to Morgan and then Matthew.
So I mentioned in my manifesto about restructuring of the academic rep system, and this is something that perfectly highlights why it needs to change. I think so far the way that reps interact with each other is very limited. It only happens maybe once a month, or maybe when you meet up with your course. It's something that it needs to be built into this community feel where, you know, reps from all departments can meet together. It's something as a faculty rep I'm very much about, and I've tried to promote that. But it's really important that it comes from LUSU, that we are setting up these communities where people that have joint disciplines can meet and they can talk about their degrees, because degrees can vary so much and they can also be really similar. So it's creating community spaces for reps and students to feel heard in.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's a good question. So as well, like in my manifesto, I've said about reconstructing the academic rep system. And yeah, as students in first year who have to take minors, I feel like sometimes they don't really get much of a say, or if not, they don't really know about the reps that much. And what I've said really about, or my thoughts about the reconstruction of the system, is that sort of to have like a voice for everybody, regardless of who they are. I know the reps are obviously there to help students sort of raise issues to them so they can hopefully change their curriculum or get improvements in the department. But every student, regardless of who they are or what position they are in their sort of degree, should have a say in that. So for relating that to like sort of the minors, of course, they're sort of in both departments, but should be contacted more so by their lead department, their main department, and actively encouraged.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. So there is a classic quote by Nigel Farage in the EU Parliament, and that was, "Who are you?" I don't know who my academic reps are. All I hear is that they go to a meeting and then something gets done. But the issue is, I don't know who these people are, and maybe that's my fault. But the issue is that academic reps need to be more visible. And I remember my first politics academic reps, but aside from that, I have no clue, and I think it really comes down to we need a more formal election process of these academic reps, because honestly, I imagine many of you don't actually know who your academic reps are and what they're doing.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, we're going to take to the floor for questions for Morgan or Neve. Keep your hands raised if you have questions for Morgan or Neve, and Polly will run around and find you. Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Neve and Morgan, for taking this seriously and being here. My question is to Neve. As the faculty rep in FAS, you might actually know more about this, but I know that FAS is restructuring into a bunch of schools, and it's all very confusing. And there is a lot of confusion just about how extracurricular and yet department adjacent activities, like, I'm in the history department, so Epoch, the history newsletter, or research seminars that are run by students and those kinds of things, how funding for that or how organizing that will still work with these new schools, because administratively it's so many changes. Do you have any plans with restructuring the academic reps and stuff to kind of incorporate student anxieties and opinions into FAS restructuring specifically?
Yeah, thank you. So if anyone is unaware, but the Faculty Arts of Social Science is having a little bit of a makeover. It's going to schools, and the reasoning behind this, I've spoken to the Associate Dean, Alison, about this, and the reason behind this is to streamline and make sure that the departments are fitting into schools that they believe work better. And you mentioned about like research. This is something I don't particularly know of, but I definitely think it's something that it's ensuring that, you know, there is those processes and that research is happening in those departments. I've been reassured that with services staffs, you will still have the same support there for your degree. The faces might change, but you will still have that support, and the restructure is something that when I look at hopefully, looking at the academic rep system and how that fits into that is definitely something that I want to kind of explore. And I think it's a really, really good question, something I definitely would want to work on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Morgan? We've got a hand in the middle here, I think, Polly. Polly, could you just come over to the middle? Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Hi, so in your manifesto you talk about flagship career fairs. I'm a creative student, I'm in Leica, and I really struggle to find tailored career support. How would you improve the access to careers fairs and opportunities for students who don't necessarily study a degree that falls within sort of the flagship companies that generally are approached by these careers fairs? Thank you.
Thank you. That's actually a really good question. So my whole premise, I think, for the flagship careers fairs, I think I used the word flagship in a more of an ambiguous term, because obviously the actual flagship careers fair that we have at the start of the year is very catered towards almost STEM students like. And so I sort of want to spread out those careers fairs into a more diverse set of or careers things to allow a bit more smaller companies from all over the working force to come in and talk to students, again, in the wider set of departments. So like for you, to be able to talk to a company that is tailored towards you, rather than having these bigger companies come in. And obviously, these bigger companies should still come in because, you know, people are going to want to apply for them, but to give the opportunity for students, regardless of who or what department they are in, to talk to companies across the board is a very vital part of a student's journey.
Morgan. Cheers. Okay, we'll take one, potentially two last questions. If you can ask questions for all candidates rather than targeting towards any. We'll go at the back here on my right, your left. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. I've just come back from a year abroad to see that a lot of conversation about AI in education and its role, and it's more like just like a general, what is your kind of stance on AI in education? Is it like for or against? Like, just what's your opinion?
Cool. We'll come down the table this way, I think.
Of course. Well, as a computer science student, AI is of course in the topics, but I would say, why are students using AI? Is it because of laziness? I don't necessarily think so. Is it because they lack support? I think that is the answer. You know, we have students and they get sent off to do coursework and then they are basically left to it with little support, and I would say that's ultimately the issue here. If you have more support in education, reduce the class sizes, then you can tackle the issue.
Thank you.
So I do a creative degree, and I think AI sometimes doesn't really fit into that, but I can understand where you do a very kind of maths-based, it fits more in. But I think AI is a really useful tool for education. I think it helps. You know, you can consolidate your notes. People use it all the time. I think it's something that obviously the university has in place their procedures and, you know, this red, amber, green kind of protocol. I think that's something that constantly needs to be reviewed, and it's something that where the feedback from students about are they finding it useful, is this fit for purpose, I think it's something that needs to be reviewed constantly.
Thank you, Neil.
So it's a good question. On the AI, obviously, it differs between all departments. Some departments it doesn't really matter at all because some students can't really use it because of how early on in its development AI is. Although, of course, with the influx of how many students actually use AI, I feel like it's because it's such a wide tool that everyone can use, people are going to use it regardless of who they are for like every subject matter. And I feel like for going forward with artificial intelligence, there should sort of be a general rule set that every student can follow. And at the end of the day, there will be different rules for each department, but to have some sort of umbrella that every student can follow upon, it might encourage a more limited use of how people go about using AI.
Thank you very much. I don't know what you're doing. Okay, so our 30 minutes is up for this segment. I would like to remind you that if you do have further questions, please submit them online and we can share them with candidates afterwards. I want to thank Morgan, Matthew and Neve for their time today. And again, voting opens tomorrow morning. We're going to take a minute just to switch around again. Can I ask the activities officer candidates to take their seats at the front, please? Thank you, everyone. Well done. Swapping over.
Hello, everyone. So we're now asking questions to the activities officer. The activities officer is the primary representative for societies, recreational groups, students' union, media outlets, sporting activity and sport clubs, including college sport and widening participation in sport. This includes being the primary liaison between the staff teams and the student groups on all representative matters relating to training, facilities, and funding, among others. They are also closely involved in the successful delivery of Roses, which is in 2026, will be the home event and the 60th competition. The activities officers facilitates and supports the work of student group executives, acting as the lead officer for the Societies Committee and Sport Committee. Your candidates for this role are Emily, Finn, Nick, and Tom. I'll pass it over to you guys to do your 2-minute introductions. We'll start on this side.
Great. Thank you for all being here. Thank you for your time. I'm Tom. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, also known as a Christian, and I'm the prayer team leader for the Christian Union, and I'm also chairman of Men's Rugby Union. I've got 3 main points in my manifesto: informed, involved, inspired, and that's really to engage as much as the Lancaster University community into our activities, which we have a plethora of at this uni. So involved. I want to engage as wide as an audience as possible, especially Freshers Fair. First impressions are incredibly important, and if you don't enjoy your first experience of a certain event, you are 8 times less likely to return to it. So Freshers Fair is incredibly important, and I want those who are shy and nervous and anxious about being there to feel welcomed. So I want to create a plan for Freshers Fair, and furthermore, with Women's Plus in sport, I really want to help support and that growth, and I really want to create our own event. So for those who identify as Women's Plus, they are able to go there and speak to the representatives of those societies in a less pressured and more focused environment with just sporting events. Furthermore, I think it's just being involved in sport and activities is incredibly important. The dropout rates are 3 times less likely if you're involved in any co-curricular activity at university. You can see that within my personal family. My brother got no involvement outside of his course, and he dropped out within 5 months, compared to my cousin, who is severely paralytic and also has a severe stammer. He is involved in chess society and board game societies, and he's loving university and has continued through his difficulties. Furthermore, informed, I want to be a good voice to listen to hear student media. For Roses specifically, I want to honour our sporting execs and allow them on commentary of their team's games. I feel that actually truly values their use and rewards that they've been given to the societies they've been involved in. And then inspired. I want people to be proud being at Lancaster Uni. I want people to encourage their friends from back home to come to this uni and to engage as much as possible. Furthermore, I feel I would be a great fit for the role, but also to work with the other FTOs. There's a team of 4 of us. It's not just me. We are supporting one another, and I feel I'd be a great use to do all of that. A bit I've just missed out. I don't drink, and I'm the chairman of Men's Rugby. And I've created that welcoming environment, and I want to create that welcoming environment for all societies to allow non-drinkers to come in. Thank you for your time.
We're going to give the other candidates 2 minutes and 30 seconds, just because we started the timer a bit late for Tom. So go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Nick, and I just want to start off by saying that I'm so grateful to be alongside some really strong candidates. I believe that whoever gets the role will do an amazing job, and we've all pushed each other to be the best we can. A little bit more about me. I'm the current president of Women's Football, and I'm on the exec of the Women's Sports Society as the Outreach and Engagement Officer. That's a newly formed society this year, and I've loved my time so far. I also play netball for Finesse College. My main thing is removing participation barriers. To do this, I'd grow the Student Access Fund by having it open for longer periods of the year and at key times for freshers, refreshers. I'd also love to have academic-free Wednesdays as much as possible. Obviously, Jack and Harrison have done great work on that so far, and I just love to push that as far as possible. And then Women's Plus Participation Sports. This year, I've helped introduce the Intramural Women's Football League. It's such a good success, and I really just want to push that for football, but also any other sport, and just bring as much women into sport as possible. More towards societies now, I'd love to look at how university space and facilities is available to societies, make that more easy to book, and just kind of see what people need and what can be done, because I think at the moment some societies do struggle with that. I also would love to work with the LUSU finance team. A lot of our student groups have in-house finances and sometimes struggle with getting responses or getting things through. People need to pay for things, and with sports societies kind of being asked to move in-house soon, I want to make sure that's set up efficiently so that nobody is struggling. And yeah, I would also be really happy to help organise the 60th Home Roses. I was on Roses Committee last year for our win, and I've got great experience with that. And yeah, that's just about me. I really want to bring together all the societies on campus and do the best I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Pass it on to Emily now.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily and I'm really excited to be running for Activities Officer. A bit more about me, so I'm currently the president of Pendle JCR and Pendle Netball, so I've got that first-hand experience leading student activities. I was also the previous president of the Harry Potter Society, so I did that as well, so I've got the side of societies and sports too. And I'm currently on sports committee as non-intervarsity Women's Plus rep as well. So I've had that experience championing college and intramural sport at the highest governing body of sport within the university. I've also kind of been on societies committee once, so that was nice. And I've also helped set up the tenants union, so I've also been championing sort of students' needs and wants and moving towards the sort of change that they need. So moving towards some of my main goals for my manifesto, so what I want to do is expand student leader training so that leaders feel confident and supported, so including things like accessibility and transparency and also mental health. So I think it's really important that student leaders get the mental health training to know how to look after themselves as well as looking after other people. They're the foundations of all activities at Lancaster. I think it's really important that they know how to look after themselves. Secondly, so Women's Plus in activities. So I want to advocate for breaking down barriers that a lot of Women's Plus feel when they try to access activities. So working with the Women in Sports Society, working with She Calls the Shots, and that sort of thing. So working towards facilitating them discussions and that space where Women's Plus feels safe to talk about solutions. And finally, so working towards a sport kit and model review, so ensuring affordability and student input into decisions that are made that affect a lot of clubs. This is something that a lot of clubs have talked to me that is an issue this year, and it's something that I really want to do a review on. If there's nothing that's wrong with it, that's great, but if there is things that are wrong with it, then we can always have that discussion and see what can be done about it. So yeah, why vote me? I've had most experience. I've had experience within societies and within sports teams, and I've been on the JCR as well. I'm already working towards improving student activities, and if I'm elected, I will continue to do so. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Finn. I'm the Lonsdale College President, and I'm also Vice President of the Basketball Society. Now, you may be wondering why I vote for some guy who's been walking around campus wearing some silly sunglasses. Let me tell you. Recently, my good friend and teammate Yanko, who I'm sure many of you know, likened me to a golden retriever, and he used that comparison to endorse my run for activities. After much consideration, I decided to embrace this comparison because who doesn't like a golden retriever? When you Google golden retriever, they, like myself, are loyal, intelligent, trustworthy, keen to please, energetic, and quick to learn games and tricks. Much like myself, although maybe don't ask my Thai society, I think I'll stick to basketball. That's enough about who I am as a person. Let me tell you what I'll do in the role. After speaking to society execs, they feel neglected after losing the VP Society's role. I want to rekindle this relationship and be a friendly face for all societies so they can feel comfortable expressing how they feel and their ambitions for their society. I will do this by using the LUSU Activities Instagram as a less formal way of communication and reform the current society's drop-in and publicise it better so I can listen and cater to your needs. Furthermore, I will continue on the work done by the SU to ensure Wednesday afternoons are free for all students so societies can also benefit from this free time. With the curriculum transformation program coming into effect, now is the perfect time to lobby the university and timetabling to ensure you aren't missing out academically for playing a sport. Along with this, I want to boost support for college sport and rivals events. Colleges are the heart of Lancaster, and their sporting events are such a great way for so many more people to get involved. College rivals should be seen as a celebratory festival in the summer, playing some serious and not so serious sports and having a laugh with your mates in the sun. If I'm elected for this role, I will ensure publicity and support for all colleges, encouraging participation and their passion for their college. Thank you for your time, and remember, a vote for Finn is a vote for fun.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much, Finn. I'll let Finn ask his question for the other candidates now as well, please.
So, my question for all of you, many of us have different experiences at different sports levels within the uni. For those of my opponents that have experience in book sport, what would you do to gain knowledge and help college sport? And for those of you that have experience in college sport, what would you do to gain knowledge and support book sport?
Start with Emily.
Yeah, so my experience is predominantly with college sport. What I would do is work with book student leaders and see what they need and what they'd like to happen with what they would like an activities officer to do. So working with like a sports committee, that's what it's there for. So having them representatives from all areas of sport so that you know kind of what to focus on and what needs fixing, what needs doesn't. But also the skills that I've learned from being a leader in college sport can be transferred over. So using them skills to kind of like work towards knowing what sports want.
Hi Finn, thanks for the question. I don't have experience on a college sport exec, but I have been massively involved with finesse netball and Patriots. So I do have experience with the uni sport, with football and the netball stuff with thing. But I just kind of, wherever my gaps in knowledge are, I just learn, basically. Speak to as many people as possible, use sports committee, use the amazing student leaders we have, and yeah, just do that and go forward with that. Thank you.
Yeah, great. I come from a books background, but I live with college social secretaries for my college county. I feel like continuing with the Roses and Sports Committee, you have representatives from books, sports, from InterVarsity, from colleges. So you will have a continued presence of different voices. So it's very important that you get the right ones. So I guess the application process, making sure the college and the books athletes are appropriate and they have outreach to more than just their own society, but then also being able to have that welcoming place. So the sports drop-ins every Tuesdays and Thursdays, continuing to encourage students to come and get support if they want it.
Thank you. We'll move on to Emily's question for the candidates.
So my question is, student leaders, including society execs and sports captains, often feel unsupported and out of the loop when it comes to student union decisions that affect them. What specific steps would you take to ensure better communication and engagement with student leaders?
Start this end of the table. If you want to start, Nick.
Yeah, sure. That's also a great question. I just like to talk to as many people as possible. Like if I got elected, I just want to take every opportunity to sit down with every exec of a society. Obviously, there's a lot of societies, but I just want to speak to them, hear how they feel, how the past has been, how they want to move forward. And yeah, I think the only thing to improve communication is simply talking to people.
Yeah, similar answer to Nicole, just listening well. I guess if there are agendas that the Students' Union are dealing with, it would have to be on my radar, kind of the time frame when people would be able to know. So, for instance, this year we've gone for a new sports supplier with Akuma, which has been great. That was released incredibly late, in all honesty. We didn't know when it was going to come out. I had a pre-season game and the kit came the day before the fixture. Some societies still haven't been able to use the new Akuma kit. So I guess how being wary of when all these timelines are and notifying the representatives who need to know, and yeah, communicating with them early and just talking to them.
Thank you, Tom. And then Finn as well.
So I think it's really important to communicate with both sports and societies leaders. I think it'd be great to have a meeting at the start of each term with sports and societies presidents, kind of saying what are the goals for the uni in this term, so they have time to kind of comprehend what's going to go on, and they have time to give their input and how they feel about things. I also would like to improve the current societies drop-in, maybe have it in a similar format to the sports drop-in 2 times a week for 2 hours, where they can come speak to me with any problems they have. Again, I'd also like to use the LUSU Activities Instagram as a less formal way to communicate with student leaders so they feel more comfortable in their positions.
Thank you, Finn. Tom, if you want to ask your question to the candidates. Doesn't matter what. Nick's fine, then go on.
So my question is, given the fact I'm the only candidate with experience of organising of Roses, what is your current understanding of how Roses Committee works and how will you successfully deliver the 60th anniversary of Roses?
We'll go this way. Oh, yeah, go for it, Tom.
Yeah, I guess election results come out on Friday and there's still 2 months before Roses. So I have no experience on Roses. I actually said to some of my other teammates and exec to go for the role. I thought I would have too much on my plate, and I wanted more than just myself representing rugby to try and engage. And thankfully, one of our social sectors is on the sports committee. Therefore, if I were to get the job, I'd be able to sit in those meetings for the next 2 months. I would be able to listen and talk to Jack and the previous Roses committee of how the processes have worked, and I guess engage well in that and listen and take that forward for if I were to host the 2026 Roses.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think quite similarly to Tom. So like if I was to be elected, like listening to the sports committee and the Roses committee to see kind of what they like about it, what they don't like about it, and see if anything needs changed. But also the representatives on that committee are the people that know the best about the sport and the event themselves. I think personally from my experience, obviously I'm not on Roses committee, but learning from people that I know that are on Roses committee, and some of my friends obviously play in Roses, and that I'm being at Roses for the 2 years that I've been here. I know that it means a great deal to a lot of people, and it means a great deal to me as well. So I think my passion for that is really justified. Also, through my time as Women's Sports Officer for Pendle, I ran Warriors and Pendle Cup. So they're sporting events, obviously not of a same scale, very much smaller, but I did have that experience of running that. So I guess kind of like transferring them skills over.
Thank you. To Finn as well.
Yeah, again, similar to Tom, I'm very close with Yanko, who's on Rose's committee. So again, I can learn from his experiences and gain knowledge from him. And again, with my experience with Lonsdale College as president founders, organising college rivals events, is again nowhere near the same scale as Roses, but it's a similar idea. So yeah.
Thank you. We'll finish up these questions with Tom's, and then if you want to think some questions for the candidates yourselves in a minute.
Great. In all your manifestos, you have promised lecture-free Wednesdays for Bucks athletes. After 9 years of campaigning for this, it's still not in full effect. So why do you think you'd be able to achieve this? And is it not a false promise? And what are your respective plans for following and making this happen?
Nick, you can start.
Yeah. It's always going to be a difficult thing to deliver on. I think if I got elected in that year, there's no way I'd make a lot of progress, unfortunately. That's just the way it is. But I do my very best to make small steps towards getting it free. My main thing would be getting staff and students fully aware of what currently they can and can't do in terms of moving things. Because I think right now people just skip things but don't actually communicate with their lecturers about it. So yeah, that's what I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
So obviously, similarly, it's a really topical subject to a lot of athletes, because obviously it impacts a lot of people in different scales, but it impacts a lot of people. I think so. The way I would go about it is I already am lobbying for change within like the university system. So with the tenants union, we're lobbying for that. So I think using them skills that I have from that and applying it to this topic will be quite useful. And also, it is a topic that's in all of our manifestos, but it's a topic that's very topical to everyone, and it's something that does need a great deal of change. I think with the curriculum transformation project at the moment, this is a great time to like embed that and get what students want from it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess similar to Emily, if it's not been passed for the last 9 years, next year is the year to get it passed with the curriculum transformation program. I think it's a key time to really lobby the university. And one part of my manifesto is not just having Wednesday afternoons free for all students, but it's also to have the current model, which is athletes get priority to move timetabling. They should have that in the morning as well, because for myself, having away fixtures, like in Bangor, we got to leave at like 8 a.m. I have to pretty much miss all of my morning things just so I can go and play an away game, which I don't think is what it needs to be right now.
Thank you. We'll move on to a pre-submitted question now. So funding is always a challenge, but what specific steps will you take to improve financial support for societies and sports clubs? We'll start with Nick and go to Tom, and then Finn and Emily.
Yeah, I know LUSU, they only get a certain amount for University for Sports. That's difficult, but I just try and kind of lobby the university, tell them why sport is such a big thing, make them see how important it is to be able to then secure more support. But then it's just being organised, seeing where that money can go and spreading it equally and as fairly as possible.
Yeah, great question. Some more information is going to come out soon regarding, I guess, finance access from Jack soon, and that'll be really great to share, so I'll leave it to Jack when that answers. But also with the budget that uni has, the uni has a bigger budget if more students stay at Lancaster Uni. And I think that's really important. If we sell ourselves with amazing activities that people want to stay at beyond their degree, beyond just for a level of education, to engage in a vast variety of activities, we will have less students dropping out, which will increase the budget. So I guess that's a long-term project, hope rather than a short-term, but also, I guess, telling the university early. We had a load of pledges this year and we couldn't access all of them because the budget was so short, and that's such a shame. So telling the uni, look, if you want student well-being to be at its highest, you've got to have activities at the forefront of your mind. And if you're not supplying extra funds for that, I don't know why you want students to come here.
Thank you. And then Dr. Finn.
So, first things first, I will review the focus sports system. I think some sports have unfair amounts of money, so I will review this and make sure funds are spread evenly across sports, so they have access to the funds that they need to make sure their society can run smoothly. And along with this, I'll review the Access Fund, which I think has been a great addition, but it needs bolstering and making bigger and giving access to even more students. So therefore lobbying the uni, hopefully providing more funds for this to give access to even more students.
Thank you. And now Emily.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Obviously, money is pretty topical at the moment. The university doesn't have a lot of money. I think everyone knows that. But I think working with the Societies Committee and the Sports Committee, that's what these student leaders are elected for, to have these discussions. So having these discussions with them and seeing what sort of ideas they might have, because they might have a brilliant idea that I've never thought of. But I think also looking at, obviously, lobbying the university, again, sports and societies mean such a great deal to a lot of people, and if the university doesn't want to put up the money for that, then they need to, because it means so much to people, and it also is a really big driver of student life here. Alternatively, looking at things like alumni or external sponsors that could sponsor sports or societies to kind of lessen the impact of if the university has cuts. But yeah, I think all in all, just like listening to what students think, sports committee, societies committee, and seeing if there's any alternative solutions.
Thank you, Emily. We'll now move to questions from the floor, either for specific candidates or all the candidates. We'll start at the back, maybe, Polly? Oh. Do bear with us whilst we have some technical difficulties.
I'm taking your mic.
Sure.
All running for Polly.
Just at the back.
Question for all four of you. As mentioned, since the merger of Sports and Societies officers into Activities Officer, many of us on the society side have felt somewhat left behind by LUSU. Many of you have experience on sporting execs and have more sport-oriented backgrounds, but as the president of one of the largest societies on campus, how can you ensure that our society and those like it won't be neglected by the union?
We'll start with Emily on that side, and then work our way around again.
Hi. Yeah, so obviously a lot of my experience is with sport, but I have been a president of a society, so I was president of Harry Potter Society. That society does mean a great deal to me. So I think kind of like listening to what societies need. I do have that experience where I understand what societies want, being from a student leader, leading a society myself. So I know some of the struggles that societies are looking at the moment, so like engagement with socials and also engagement with execs and things, so getting people to carry on the exec, especially if you're a smaller society. I still think they're really important because specifically Harry Potter Society, that's on the smaller side of a society, but it's where I kind of found like my home when I first came to university, and it's where I find a lot of my friends. So I think also just speaking to Societies Committee and seeing what them student leaders are talking to.
If we move on to Finn.
Yeah, so obviously, again, a lot of my background is from sport, but during my campaign, I spoke to a lot of society execs, and like I said, boosting in my manifesto, boosting communication through that, the reformed societies drop in, and the less formal use of the LUSU activities Instagram as a way to message me. And again, while speaking to society execs, it's a really simple thing, but like the use of storage spaces is just terrible at the minute, to be honest. And This is one thing I'd do on day one, is just go around and look at all the storage spaces, speak to societies, see what they want, and literally do the simple thing of buying them shelves. So that I've seen cupboards shared with like 6 societies, and it's just a complete mess. And it's a really simple thing, but it just makes the day-to-day running of societies so much easier.
Thank you, Finn. We'll go down to this side of the table. I'll start with Nick.
I just love to, if I was elected, to just speak to as many society execs as possible. Obviously, that has to work both ways. We both have to want to interact, but I'd really love for the FTO, the societies, and the societies team to all work together. But I think with the societies committee really like coming together this year, that'll provide a really good outlet for people to talk about what's going on. So yeah, just improve communication as much as possible, because I feel like from my sports background, there's a really good connection between execs and the sports team. I don't personally know what it's like between societies and the societies team, but that's something I really want to work on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I do have experience in a society background. So being the prayer team leader of the CU, I run the 8 a.m. Friday morning prayer meetings, reading through the Bible with about 10 to 20 people on an average day. And then also I've organised prayer and praise events with the CU where we've had over 100 people singing and worshipping God. And those have both been great. And relatively, societies are more not funding, but they need less support. With sports, you need refs, coaches, buses. A lot of societies are based on campus, so I guess generally they need less support than the average sports society. So I guess when you guys do need to support, you need to have a firm foundation of trust and listening. So if your emails are not getting replied to within 2 weeks, or even a short amount of period for urgent issues, there's clearly problems. So I guess speeding up communication would be really useful, and I guess everyone said this, but continuing the work of societies committee would be great.
We'll now move on to a pre-submitted question for all the candidates again. So how do you plan to engage postgraduate and international students in activities, considering they often feel left out of the traditional SU events? We'll start on this side with Tom again.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, we do have an International Freshers Week, and there are International Freshers events mainly hosted in the main hall, and I feel that's a great way to engage those students, but I don't think the societies maybe know about that enough. Certainly with rugby, we didn't actually put a stand up for that, and I think that was a great shame, because I think rugby is a great sport that everyone should be able to try, even at a recreational level. So trying to engage that early and being aware of the opportunities where we can outreach to first international students, and then also to postgrad students. If they majority want to focus on their studies, you clearly have to be if you want to do a master's. If they want to do extra, just providing the information. Here are the opportunities. Do you want to engage? That's on your choice. That's not ours to get you engaged with.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think for postgrad students, it's easier if they've been a Lancaster student for 3 years or whatever, and then continued on, because they might already have that kind of, they might have built that kind of relationship with the club. But for people that just come here for postgrad, I think it would just be kind of letting execs know to advertise for postgrad students, not just freshers, because I think we all just focus on the fresher income rather than postgrad students. So I think working with execs on that would be a big thing. With international students, and kind of, if they're only coming here for like 1 term or 2, it can be difficult to get engagement. I've found that people don't want to just pay for membership just for a term, especially with the new sports passes. But yeah, just kind of speaking to people at the right times when they're arriving.
Thanks, Nick. We'll go just along.
Yes, I think it comes down to that communication thing. So maybe speaking to the postgraduate board, the international students officer, and kind of seeing where they think shortfalls could be, where international students and postgraduate students kind of feel that they're not included in that sort of thing. So I think, yeah, like a great thing that they did this year was like the International Students Fair. So maybe doing one like that targeted towards postgraduate students as well. But also the communication thing again, so like communicating with societies and sports clubs that like this should be extended towards postgraduate and international students, so making them aware. And just making sure that like any sort of like communication is put forward to them as well.
Thank you, Emily.
So I'm sure some of you know, in basketball society, it's actually quite an international sport. We have a lot of people from China and Spain playing, and one thing we do is we have reps in these groups, like in Chinese society and Spanish society, that boost participation within these groups. And we work with Chinese society doing charity tournaments. And so this is something I'd encourage all societies to do, to have international reps within their teams that can go into these societies and talk to their members. So to hear what they want, so to boost participation.
Thank you. We'll move on to questions from the floor again. Maybe just at the front down here, Polly. Just in the black shirt. Thank you.
Is it okay to be directed at everyone?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of talk of in certain sporting societies, like toxic cultures, a lot to do with misogyny and problems like a lot of women face. For example, if there's a women's like other team as well as a men's team, some of the people in women's teams feel that there's a really toxic culture in the men's team towards them and outside of the men's like sports teams as well. I was just wondering what you guys would do to tackle the sort of misogynistic, toxic culture that you find in a lot of the men's sports teams.
Thank you. We'll start with Finn on that end of the table and work our way up.
So, obviously I'm not a woman, so I will never know what it feels like to be marginalised in a sport. But it's one thing that I will do is obviously listen to all student leaders, especially women's leaders in sports, in societies as well, that typically are male-dominated, like football, rugby, basketball. And again, chairing the Women's Sport Forum, stuff like this, I will listen to women's leaders whilst in the role. So I think it's a really, really important thing, especially for next year, as women just feel marginalised in sport. But like I said, I will never know what it's like to feel like that. So I will 100% listen to all student leaders.
Thank you. Emily?
Hi, yeah, so this is something that I've experienced before, misogyny within Sport of Lancaster, being like a Women's Plus leader myself. I think a zero tolerance policy, like there is no place for that at Lancaster at all. And I think providing that sort of space where Women's Plus sport and societies leaders can come and discuss sort of solutions to this. So if there has been an incident where, like as you were saying, like there's a women's team and a men's team and there has been an incident like that, bringing towards a space where they can come towards some sort of discussion about how things can be fixed and how that can't happen again, because no woman should ever feel that like unsafe playing sport or in any sort of society, and there's no sort of place for that at Lancaster.
Thank you. And we'll have Tom and then Nick.
Yeah, I think it's a great challenge. I'm so sorry that if any of you in the crowd you've experienced that. I guess listening to your voices is incredibly important, and also hearing what you guys want to say and how you can be dealt with that. So there's a lot of mixed societies, and I guess you've got to talk to not only the women in those societies but also the men of how do they think they're reacting. They could be completely naive to it because they've just not been educated on it, and that's a real shame. So if they are made aware of their own misogyny and I guess issues, then I think they would probably reduce it significantly. If they're not aware of it and it's just not directly tackled, then I think it would unfortunately continue, and we don't want that to happen. And I think it's great that we've got so many societies and sports societies for Women's Plus athletes, far more than your local area, and I think that's great, and we should enhance that and continue with that work by raising awareness for Women Plus in sport, continuing that society.
You, Tom.
Thank you.
Move on to Nick. Sorry.
People have mentioned the Women's Sports Society. Obviously, I'm on the exec for that society, and the main thing we've been trying to do this term is talk about these kind of things. We had a sports leaders link up a few weeks back now between us and LUSU, and that was really well. We had some really good discussions in the room from mixed clubs where they've experienced like comments and just kind of general feelings of things not being where they should be. So I just love to continue supporting that society if I was elected and getting the right people in the right rooms. From being from a male-dominated sport, it doesn't feel great. I just love to encourage the clubs that are separate to communicate with each other. Like I'd love for women's football to be closer with men's football and create that kind of common understanding and respect.
Thank you, Nick. We'll take one last question from the floor. Please, can it be for all candidates as well? Any suggestions?
No, we'll go with the laptop in front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
You've all spoken a lot about sports, and I'd like to know how you plan to help with or help to increase information around gender non-conforming people in sports, because there is a very large lack of it. Do you have any plans for this?
Thank you. Start with Emily. And then
Yeah, I agree. I've spoken to a fair few student leaders that have identified that to me. So one of my manifesto points is obviously about student leader training. So I think the accessibility part is about that. So I think when the student leaders come in to do their training, kind of talking about that and like talking about some ways that it can be brought about to clubs, and that ways that sort of stigma can be destigmatized around that sort of thing. But it's definitely something that has been like identified to me, and definitely something that I would work towards.
Thank you, Emily. We'll go to Finn as well.
Yeah, so I completely agree as well. There's really no clarity on this issue at all. And it's something, again, I'd work on closely with student leaders, talking to people in societies that are affected. And again, I think Emily's point is good about increasing training and just increasing awareness of this problem so that there's clarity on it and there's clarity across the whole of the UK, to be honest, because we don't want different unis to be having different policies on who can participate. Well, first of all, everyone should be able to participate, but just clarity on who fits into what, and yeah.
Thank you, Finn. We'll now have Nick and then Tom to finish.
Yeah, I'd really just like to learn as much as I can. Obviously, I've not experienced that kind of thing, so getting the right people who have experienced it in the room, talking about it, leading kind of the direction for it. With sport, it's confusing and difficult because there are certain rules that we have to just stick with. But I just want as many people participating in sport as possible, and I'd love to work with people on this if elected.
Thank you. And now Tom.
Yeah, just continuing with inclusion, we've now been putting on team sheets, I guess women's plus and men's plus, and I think that's a great step to make those students who identify in that way feel welcomed into those societies. Also speaking to the main student leaders, if your leaders are accepting this and welcoming this and leading from the front, then I'm sure the rest of the society will follow. And I think that's a great step to do in the exec training at the start and also for the wellbeing officers as well.
Thank you very much. That's it for all the questions from you guys. Thank you to all the candidates, Tom, Nick, Emily, and Finn. If you have any more questions for them, do get in contact with them between now and the end of the election period. Thank you.
We'll get straight into it. So now round 4, we're on to the presidents, chaired by myself and supported by Jack. So a little brief introduction of what the president role is. So the president of the SU must lead the broad development of the union. They coordinate and support the activities of the full-time officer team and chair the full-time officer group, ensuring good working relationships between the team are maintained and duties are being undertaken. They act as the chair of the trustee board and college leadership committee. They are the lead spokesperson of the union with regard to student and political issues in a manner consistent with policy, resolutions of the board, or, in the absence of specific policy or direction, in a manner consistent with the president's role and responsibility as chair of the board of trustees. They attend University Council, Senate, and any other committees of University Council or Senate to which they are appointed ex officio. They act as the lead officer in relation to the operations of the union's commercial services and their development, including acting as a non-executive director of LUSU Services Company Limited and LUSU Housing Limited. The president acts as the lead officer for championing junior common rooms and the postgraduate board. Oh my God, that's a mouthful. Your candidates for this role are Adam, Ben, Ollie and Rory. So the exact same format as we had for the other candidates. Each candidate will get a 2-minute opening speech, and we'll start with Ben over to the left, and then we'll make our way down. So Ben, if you will, please.
Hi, I just want to run you through my main 3 manifesto points. The first one is breaking the status quo. The current status quo is a broken LUSU that most students are unengaged with. Students need to be engaged with the Students' Union. This isn't a fault of the students, this is a fault of the Students' Union. Students need to feel like they have their voice in it. The first thing I'll do to rectify this is holding regular open meetings where myself and the other VPs are held accountable and responsible to yourself. And then as a further thing is I want to expand the UA, keep sure that it has representatives that everybody feels like they have a direct say in it. My second point being student voice. We need to promote student voice. There's such a wide range of opinions on campus and all of them need to be heard and amplified. I will commit to listening to students and amplifying their voice on an individual basis and on mass issues. The third point is rent issues. Rent prices on campus have reached unattainable unsustainable levels. It is not acceptable, and we need drastic action to address this. I also think we need to keep in mind students that live off campus, and often the issues with these is disputes with landlords. We need to support students with landlords. Why me? I'm an activist, I'm a campaigner. I'm someone who's used to getting things done as an underdog, and the LUSU president to management is the underdog. Management will laugh us out for a lot of the things that we're saying right here. I know how to deal with that. I'm used to being laughed out at first and then achieving my goals in the end. Vote better, vote Ben.
Thank you very much, Ben. I'll pass the mic to Ollie. Ollie, go ahead.
Hey everyone, my name's Ollie and my pronouns are he, him. I'm formerly a college president. I'm also now a football club president. During this, I was elected to have a seat on sports committee as chair of the college football board. This means I'm a key decision maker across the university. In other words, I know how LUSU works. Moving on to what I do in the role, for far too long, student voices have been sidelined while LUSU makes decisions that fail to address our real needs. It's time for a change, and I believe that I am that change. I'm committed to creating a more transparent and student-focused union that truly listens to us and delivers meaningful results. With my experience within the colleges, I have collaborated extensively with societies, colleges and LUSU to understand student concerns. I also took the initiative off of my own back to establish a tenants union. This advocates for a rent freeze to make campus life more affordable for all students. Together, we can ensure that our voices are heard and that our union acts in our best interests. A vote for me is not just a vote for my manifesto, not just a vote for what I do, but for an idea of a union that serves, listens and delivers for the students.
Thank you very much. Adam.
Hi there. You may have noticed that my program is very different from some of the other ones. The reason for that is because capitalism is in a fundamental crisis which is destroying our education. What do we see? We see defunded departments, staff that are threatened with layoffs or cut pensions. You see rising costs of living with rent going up, with tuition fees going up. This is an unsustainable and unacceptable state of affairs, right? I mean, even the epidemic of mental health, I think, is tied to this. And is this because that is a necessary thing? Is there no other way? Obviously, there is another way. Look at all the wealth in society. In the last year, the wealth of billionaires has grown by 2 trillion, and yet we are exploited and we are suffering. Why is that the state of affairs, right? And I think the staff layoffs show this, right? Staff are being cut by 15%, whilst management, the last 2 years, grew by 34%. Who are they managing? Why is all this money going to management when our educators are being slashed, right? And it's a very radical program, I'll admit, right? I'll be the first one to admit it. But the point is that all of these things are attainable, right? But only on the basis of a national campaign. If staff and students do not move to make change themselves, nothing will be done. You cannot depend on electing one SU president once a year to fix anything. That is not going to fix anything, right? The crisis is much more fundamental than that, but it can be fixed. A university should not be a profit-driven institution. It should be an institution run by those who know how to run it best. That is the staff and students. They will care about the quality of the education, right? And this is actually a campaign that other universities are undergoing, right? In Leeds, in Cardiff, they're fighting against the job cuts, right? In Leeds, they got banned, right? This is an opportunity for students to take a step forward, to actually fight back against these cuts and fight for a better future.
Thank you very much. Alan. Rory.
Hi everyone, my name is Rory, my pronouns are he, him. I am currently a LUSU student trustee, so I have a full understanding of the inside of LUSU and the financial situation of both the Students' Union and the university. Spoilers, it's not very good. I was also the FUNES JCR president last year. I'm now the FUNES Democracy and Finance, so again I'm handling the money there. And I'm running for president. So my 5 manifesto pledges are campus rent control. In the last 5 years, rent's gone up 26%. The maintenance loan's only gone up by 10%. Students couldn't afford to eat 5 years ago. They really can't afford to eat now. This needs to change, and Yes, so moving on from that, protect student jobs is the next one. College bars are closed. Students may not have officially lost their jobs, but students aren't getting shifts anymore. And back to students can't afford to eat. Students really can't afford to eat if the shifts that they were promised are no longer being given to them. Number 3, town safety. So students have talked to me in the last month or so, saying that town is less safe than it was last year. I've looked into it. Crime rates are on the up. Sexual and violent crimes are going up as well. As the biggest employer in the area, the university has the weight to lean on the council to implement policies in town to protect students. After that, we've got empower colleges to live up to the hype. Colleges were designed 60 years ago when students were less diverse. They had a different attitude to studying. They had more money. It's not working anymore. Students are involved in their colleges for Freshers Week, but after that, they don't have anything to do with them. And the last one is LUSU transparency. A lot of people have talked about this already. Decisions are made behind closed doors. People don't like that, and that will change. I've got very little time left. Vote for me, please. And 1. There we go.
Thank you, Rory. Rory, I'm going to pass the mic straight back to you because we're going to go for cross-examination questions, and I'll start the other way around.
Awesome. Let me get my piece of paper up. So we all have policies on rent control or other financial measures. The university is in financial crisis at the moment, as is LUSU, as are students. Will the university listen to what you're pushing, and how will you get them to do that?
So I'm going to go for Ollie first, and then I'm going to try and limit you to around 30, 40 seconds. I know it's difficult. It's a big question, but yeah, thank you very much.
So I've already started work on this really important issue. After I stopped being JCL president, after I finished my term, I founded a tenants union. This tenants union is going extremely well at the moment. We've passed through motions for the SU version of Parliament. We've been involved in discussions with local councillors. And I'd really love to keep this work going. We've built a membership base. We've built a follower base. The only way is up from here, really. If you do vote for me, you will genuinely allow me to continue this really, really important work. The university should prioritise the money that's in students' back pockets over anything else. Student finances are in crisis. The university might be in crisis, but it's only going to get worse if the university doesn't prioritise how much money students actually have. Thank you.
If you can pass the mic to Ben, please.
Sorry. I'm a great supporter of Ollie's work on the tenants union. The tenants union is a great scheme, and to be honest, it needs to be taken further. We need to push as many students as want to join it. And to be honest, a tenants union isn't going to be taken seriously if it isn't willing to take drastic actions. And those drastic actions may have to be rent strikes. And they are a difficult time for people, and we would have to support people through them. But I think if we rule it off the table now, then we will never be taken seriously.
Thank you. Adam?
Yeah, I think in terms of like rent control or anything like this, you're not going to get a good engagement out of management. They profit off it. They're profiteering off the students, right? They are the landlords. We should just kick them out. Like the buildings are there. Why are we outsourcing it? Like that should be subsidized, right? And the wealth exists in society to do that, and the students have the means to fight back. Things like rent strikes, things like linking up with the workers, right? I'm not just for rent control. That reform can be taken back at any time. Kick out the people who are causing the rent to go up, which is management.
Thank you. We'll go for Ben. Could you ask your question to the panel, please?
Of course, we've seen a lot of different protests, a lot of different thoughts on campus. As leader, you will have to deal with people and groups that have dissenting opinions to you that you personally disagree with. How will you best engage with these groups properly?
I'll start with Rory, please.
Yes, so I should have listened to Frank, really. So yeah, of course, students will have different opinions to me as they come in. As a union, we represent the full body of students of 16,500 people, and the way that the union progresses is through union assembly. So this would come to union assembly and it would be elected as a whole. I would individually get a vote in that, but my vote is just one of 20, roughly, people in that room. And if it goes against what my personal opinion is, then so be it. That's not my opinion to have. I would be representing the union.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like, students have, like, a common interest, right? They might disagree on, like, I don't know, what Harry Potter character is the best, but find me a student that thinks, like, rent isn't too high or that tuition fees aren't too high, right? You won't. And yeah, like, the Students' Union, the first thing we should do is democratize the university, because on that basis, those interests will come through, right? Immediate open assembly, not just of 20 people, but of the entire staff, really liven up student politics, right? Everyone should be able to engage in a real dynamic basis.
Yeah.
Feel free.
That's all.
So, as student union president, you represent the union, and in representing the union, you represent the students that are in the union. So I don't think my personal opinion or anyone else's personal opinion matters in this case. If a protest action reflects the views of the majority of the student population, in my opinion, it's the union's duty to ensure that all student voices are acknowledged. Whatever form this may be, that is what the union's duty is. I am dedicated to fostering as inclusive as an environment as possible, where every student feels empowered to express their thoughts and opinions.
Okay, we'll just go for Adam's question.
Yeah, so I've been attacked a lot on the realism of my program, but I'd like to put this to everyone else. With the crisis that is occurring, not just in our university, but all the other ones, how can you achieve your aims, right? Every year, the president promises things like, freezing the bus prices or lowering it, right? Or like any of these number of reforms. And very rarely do they ever get put through. So how, with the university entering even deeper crisis, do you think you'll do better than your predecessors?
Start with Ben, for me, please.
So I think traditionally LUSU presidents are elected from the JCR. They're people who are used to being a position of power, a king of their little castle. And really the thing that LUSU president needs to be is someone who knows how to make change with a body that they don't have control of. As an activist, I am someone who is used to that. I can do that. I can achieve that. And I'm also someone who is willing to take drastic action when it is necessary, and I know can properly support students through it.
And Tolly?
I believe that I'm best suited to deliver on promises than my predecessors because I believe I've done this before. I have a proven track record. When I went for JCR president, I promised three things. I promised to invest in county facilities, to give county sports the recognition they deserve, and to bring the JCR back in touch. I delivered on all three of them things. I oversaw a renovated college bar. I started an open forum on day one, and I delivered 4 figures of extra funding to the sports teams as my last act as president. That's why I do think that I will be able to deliver on these promises.
Thank you, Ollie, and then over to Rory.
Yes, so it's about presenting it to the university in such a way that it looks like a positive to the university. So, for example, with rent control, obviously the university is well within its right to turn around and say no, but only if you're going at them with 80% of students think that rent's too high, right? Which, it's not an unreasonable figure, and I'm sure the university would expect it. They'd just turn around and say, we know, sorry. If you can turn around and say, actually, if you reduce rent, then students would have more money to spend at the university, to spend at university outlets, to spend at the college bars, to spend, even, for LUSU, to spend at the Sugar House.
I'll stop you there, sorry. Rory.
Awesome.
Thank you. Ollie's question, you've got
So a common theme of everyone's manifestos is transparency and communication. I've combated this by saying that full-time officers should produce fortnightly reports and we should have open forums of student discussion. How would everyone else combat the distrust that's with the union at the moment in time?
Adam.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think people are reasonably distrustful. Not that, like, any of the full-time officers are, bad people or anything, but, like, I do not know what the full-time officers really do. Maybe I'm just, like, completely removed from it. I think that's a very common sentiment, right? But yeah, like, would weekly reports really fix that? Like, would me just telling you, oh, these are the best things I've done, and you not really having a good way to verify that fix anything? No, you need to open up the university to being run by a wider layer of students and staff, right? That's the only way to secure that people know what's going on, right, if they're actively involved.
So yeah, in my manifesto, I talk about live streaming UA, for example, Union Assembly. Currently, anyone can go to it, but no one knows it even exists. If it's made a bigger deal, like Prime Minister's Questions, for example, and you can watch it from the comfort of your bed, you're going to be more inclined to keep on top of things. It happens twice a term, and there are these reports from FTOs in there for people to read through. In fact, you can find the minutes and the agendas online before each one and after each one. In terms of wider transparency, it is about just using social media and media even more. I know the social media team is stretched at the moment, but there must be ways of saying, not just this is what we have done, but this is what we are doing, and just keeping people up to date with this is what we are doing.
And then over to Ben, please.
So yeah, an open forum where officers are held accountable is something I've talked about as well. I also want to expand the way we work with student media, keep sure accountable there, and the expanding the UA, and to keep sure that every member of the university feels like they have a UA member that represents them, that they know directly. If it's someone that is high up that you've never met, then you're not going to feel like you can speak to them directly. It needs to be someone who is like your society president, someone like that you can speak to directly, that you know.
Thank you very much. So that ends our cross-examination questions. So I'm going to go to some questions from online, and I'm glad someone submitted this because I wanted to ask it myself. It's a very, very good question. Currently, there are no women running for president this year, and for the last 3 years, there's only been one female candidate per year. What do you think about this, and what, if anything, would you do if elected to address this? I'll go to Ollie first, please.
I think that it's a real shame that we don't have a woman running as a candidate. I think it's a signifier of a union that may not value women like we should do. I am also aware that I'm not a woman. I'm not a part of a minority group, so I do not know what it feels like. But what I would do to address this, I would speak to the Women's Plus Liberation LCO. I would speak to their forum to try and understand why it is that this has happened.
I'll start you there, Ollie, sorry. I'll move on to Adam, please.
Yeah, I mean, like, the problem isn't just rooted in Lancaster University. Women are, in general, in society, taught to be basically like passive, right? That is rooted in the fact that we have a system that is entrenched in misogyny, and that system is capitalism, right? For as long as we have like a female working class, which is subjected to the same level of exploitation, and doubly so because they are forced to do domestic labor and they are victims to things like domestic abuse. Like, yeah, women are never going to have an equal place in society unless that is fundamentally changed.
Thank you very much, Adam. Rory.
So yeah, it starts from the ground up. I think it is further down than LUSU. It needs to be looked at in JCRs and in society execs and sports execs, and it needs to be targeted, right? People need to be approached and said, you would be really good in this role, because currently, in the current climate, as has been touched on, women don't feel empowered to fill these roles. But sometimes it just takes that little bit of a push, and that's kind of where we're at the moment. Obviously, in the future, ideally, we wouldn't have this problem, but we need a targeted approach of, you would be really good in this role, you should really sign up.
Ben.
Yeah, I think this is a real shame. In the short term, I hope I'll be someone who can listen well and take women's issues, listen to the women plus and take their issues forward. In the long term, I think it is ensuring that Women Plus feel able to engage in student life, in student politics. I think too often they feel shunned out or pushed away, and that is not acceptable, and we need to change that.
Thank you very much. I'd like to take a question from the floor, please. So please raise your hands. Go straight in front of me. Could this be a question for all candidates as well, please?
Yeah, cool.
Thank you.
So as Women's LCO, we're currently doing a campaign with Ella about stopping sexual misconduct and harassment on campus. Keris has been such a fantastic help with the campaign and helping us kind of meet with university staff. So this campaign is going to have to continue next year as well. So as president, how would you continue supporting this campaign and helping, make changes in our university to make women safer?
We'll start with Adam, please.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think, like the role that Cyrus has played has been very good from what I hear. But when we have a management that, I should probably be careful with my words here, has allegedly been incredibly awful at dealing with sexual misconduct, has allegedly covered up misconduct because they don't want the publicity, because they don't want to admit that they don't want to put the money into actually protecting these people, then these things won't be fixed, right? That is a despicable state of affairs. And yeah, I will support any movement against that kind of a problem, right?
Thank you. Rory. Yeah, so I mean, there will be a handover. So to know where you've got when one of us comes into post, and from there it's a case of carrying on and not taking no for an answer. It's getting you those seats in those rooms, and if you're coming out of those rooms and not feeling like you've been listened to, it's getting back in that room the next week and the next week. And LCOs at the moment are full-time students, part-time volunteers. It's about taking the work back as full-time officers and doing the work behind the scenes as well, so that you can focus on your studies whilst the union is protecting your interests. Over to Ben, please.
Hi, as someone who wants to support all campaigns, and your campaign sounds like a wonderful campaign, I would first meet with you, listen to your campaign, see what LUSU can be doing now, and then help advise or guide you on what the further steps we need to be, because this is a path that I've been through and I know how much of a struggle campaigning is.
I'd just like to start off by saying I think it's an absolutely fantastic campaign, and well done for everything you've accomplished so far. What I'd initially do is sit down with yourself and whoever the respective Vice President Wellbeing is, and try and figure out what it is exactly that you've done so far and what it is that you'd like a support from the LUSU President if it was me. I would also try and make it so that LCOs are empowered as much as physically possible, so you can run your own campaigns, you can have your own financial budget, and you can do your own events without the tick box exercise of asking LUSU for certain equipment and materials that you can get on with what you want when you want.
Okay, so we're going to go to some direct questions online. So we'll start with Ben. You've been an active campaigner for the Plant-Based Universities campaign. But are you at all worried that the extreme nature of this campaign might cause some students to disengage with the union if you are elected?
So yes, I've been an active campaigner in the Plant-Based Universities campaign. This is a campaign for a sustainable and accessible campus. This is something that as a campaign we are really concerned about. We want to keep sure that all students no student gets left behind by it. We are being slow and methodical with the transition to keep sure that no students are left behind.
Thank you very much. This one's for Rory, another question from online. You spent time as college president and you're on the trustee board. By your own admission, you have in-depth knowledge on LUSU finances. What have you completed for students in these roles?
It's a good question. So as student trustee, I am only half a term into it, so I haven't been able to achieve too much, but I would like to think that I have given valuable insight into board meetings and into the Finance and Risk Subcommittee that I sit on, where we look at the financial situation of LUSU. I can't I can't say too much, but our hands are very tied on a lot of things, and so it's a lot of very difficult decisions.
Thank you very much, Rory. Sorry to keep calling your time, guys. Over to Adam. Do you think your campaign excludes some students because of its radical nature?
Yeah, well, I think it is obviously radical, right? But radical change is needed. Why are we in a situation where things have gotten so bad? I follow all these confession pages, and like every third post is someone crying for help because their life situation is just so bad. If you can look at society now and think that it's just a matter of this or that reform, I don't know. It is so obvious to me that is what is needed, is a revolutionary overthrow.
And then we'll go lastly to Ollie. Ollie, how do you plan to readjust the SU budget to pay for some of your policies, such as the reintroduction of the sugar bus?
I believe that a free sugar bus is something that is absolutely vital to the service that the union offers. I believe that it's an important welfare aspect on that side. I think it positively affects students' back pockets, and I believe that it is absolutely imperative that we do bring back the free sugar bus, and I think this is a student want in itself. I don't know what cuts will have to be made or what adjustments will have to be made to make sure this happens, but if we do have to make cuts, I promise to you, I will incorporate the student voice from top to bottom of the decision.
Going to take another open question to the floor. These questions that we're going to take from the floor have to be directed at all candidates. Go for Finn.
Right, so as Lonsdale president, obviously I'm devastated that we've lost our bar. What will you do next year to work with Lonsdale and Bowland to hopefully reopen their bars, and if not, maybe fund a refurbishment or just do anything to make sure that these spaces are used and created for students? And also to kind of negate the influence of SCRs that may particularly not know best. What is the best use of the space?
Okay, I'll try and focus your question first on what you do around the bars. I think in 30 seconds it'll be difficult to cover the SCRs as well, so focus on that point first, please, Adam.
Yeah, it's absolutely awful that the bars are being closed. A third of the bars on campus have been closed. That's a ridiculous state of affairs. The money exists to reopen them. How much do you think it costs to run Bowl and Bar? It was manned by one person for 20 hours a week. What is that, £10,000? They're paying a minimum wage, right, as well. But yeah, we could reopen these spaces. They don't have to be bars. Why not cafes? Include the students, incorporate them into the actual running of this, and the profits can be reinvested rather than siphoned out into private companies.
Thank you very much, Adam. Over to Ollie.
Just in regards to the closure of Lonsdale, Bowland and Graduate Bar, I would work extremely closely with not only the JCRs but the students of that college or the people that do visit that bars to try and strike some sort of deal of how the SU can support you in changing how it looks. The most important thing here is that students in college communities feel at home in their spaces, no matter what form that looks like, and I'll do everything I can to make sure that happens.
Thank you very much. Over to Rory, please.
Table tennis.
Just making it hard for you. Thanks, Rory.
Yeah, so I do think the SCR topic is very tied to this, actually, because LUSU doesn't have a say over what happens in these bars. They're university facilities. That being said, I will make sure we get in those rooms with the university to be part of those decisions to see what we're going to do with them, because without that, they will just fire away and do what they want with them, and you could just end up with a grad kitchen without that.
Over to Ben, please.
As from the campaigning, I already have a great relationship with our retail managers. Of course, they would work with anybody, but I'm already able to speak with them. And these are the people who are going to make decisions on this. And we just need to remind them that these bars don't exist to turn a profit. These bars exist as student amenities to keep your student life as best as it can be.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take an open question from online. It's a question to all. How do you plan to address and overcome any preconceived perceptions that some members of the campus community may have about you if you are elected into the role? I'm going to start with Rory.
So the question was, how do I address any perceptions about me that the campus might have?
I'll repeat the question. It's a bit of a start one, and I'll restart your time. How do you plan to address and overcome any preconceived perceptions that some members of the campus community may have about you?
Okay, yeah. I'd like to think the preconceived perceptions about me are that I ran for an SJCR very well. And I would like to continue that vibe. I will address that by continuing with that vibe, if that's all right.
Over to Ben.
This is something that I think open forums would be great for, holding me accountable. People will be able to learn more about me. I also encourage anybody to come speak to me in the campaign, or even after the campaign. If I were elected, I'd want anyone to come and approach me about any issues they had. It's also put remember, like, the LUSU presidency isn't about me, it is about you, and I will have that by heart at all times.
Thank you, Ollie.
I hope the preconceived opinions that maybe about me are good. What I would do to alleviate some of this, it might be a thing, is how I beckon about transparency and communication. How I have open meetings straight away so people can get to know me, I can get to know them. I view myself as quite an approachable person, and this is definitely something I'd like to carry on doing if I am elected, if you were to vote for me.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, in terms of preconceived ideas about me, I hold my politics for very good reason I can't explain in 30 seconds. But if you want to learn about what I do and why I do it, come speak to me. Every Thursday from 12 to 3 p.m, I am in Alex Square. I've got the paper, which in this issue I've actually written in, so maybe you should buy one and read about it. And you can see my ideas written by me and speak to me, right? Like, there's nothing else to do.
Thank you very much, Adam. Okay, let's go to the floor. Hands up. Okay, straight in front of me in the red top, please. Thank you.
If elected, you'll be working closely with 3 other FDOs. What qualities do you have that makes you the best person to establish an effective team and good working relationship with the other officers?
Start with Ben, please.
As a society president, I've got used to leadership roles. I've been, and as a campaigner, I'm used to working on an equal footing. The VPs aren't below the president. We're all equal standing. I'm used to committee leadership, to equal leadership, and that is something I will continue going for.
Yep, Ollie?
For the last 1.5 years, I've experienced a great amount of leadership roles. My leadership qualities are something that I value quite close to me. I like open communication, I like to lead a team, and I believe in evidence-made decision-making. And this is definitely something that I'd be looking to do if I was elected as president.
Adam, please.
Yeah, I think I've been organized as a communist now for the last 2 years, and it's taught me a lot, right? I have no means by which to coerce any of the people on my campaign team to do anything. All I can do is politically convince them that the cause we are fighting for is worth fighting for. And what is that but leadership skills, right? A leader is one who can inspire other people, right? And it's the same, it's also education, right? There's a good Greek proverb on this. Education, or the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but fire to be lit.
Pass over to Rory, please.
Thank you. I don't know any Greek proverbs, but I like to think I'm a very transparent person. I lead a team by being accessible, so I like for my team members to be able to access me at any time that they need me. If they've got any questions, if they need any help, I am always available to help with that. So that's my key theme.
Thank you very much. I'll take another one from the floor, please. We'll go with the man with the fleece just here, please. Just 3 rows beneath you, Holly. Thank you. Sorry, poor directions from me.
Hello. Uni recently all the staff recently got an email that said due to lower than expected number of applicants, we forecast bad profits, so we're going to have to cut staff in the next 2 years by about 400. And this will have an obvious effect on students because we'll get that much less help. Do you see this as within the purview of your role as a president? And if so, how do you reconcile that with the pressure that the uni will have to cut off what they see as their biggest expense?
Start with Holly, please.
In short, yes, I do believe this is something in the purview of the president. It dramatically affects the students that we represent, that we serve for. I'd stand side by side with the UCU in this action to try and lobby the university to make sure that they aren't making teaching cuts, that they aren't cutting staff numbers, because staff are imperative to student communities. Without staff, without students, those communities don't exist.
Over to Ben, please.
Yes, this is a student issue, therefore it is a president's issue. I would too stand by the teachers' union on this issue and ensure that these cuts did not go ahead, and if they did, that students were not overly affected than they have to be.
Rory, please.
Yeah, so I think it is a president's issue. First and foremost, it is the president's job to protect student staff that might be in the firing line. After that, it's protecting students who might be affected by their designated staff member getting the cut. So it is working with the UCU to make sure that the staff that are leaving are not ones that directly impact students. And you've also got, I know I've run out of time. Bugger, sorry.
Yeah, I think the students' union is so in bed with management that it is impossible for a students' union president to defend the rights of the teachers without leaning upon the staff. In my first year, there was a full-time officer that told the students to act like secret police and report which lecturers were missing from which lectures. That is a ridiculous state of affairs. Why is that? Is that because that person was a bad person? They probably were. But it's also because the students' union is wed with management. You need to make a break with that.
I'm going to take, thank you. I'm going to take another one from the floor in absence of an online question in front of me. So hands up in the flat cap over there. Thank you.
Thank you. So some of you mentioned previous JCR and society experience. As a JCR member and a society exec, I know there's a lot of groaning when you mention having to go through the SU. How can you guarantee that you'll work well with societies, with JCRs, create that transparency, but also let them do what they have to do as well?
Rory first, please.
So the question was, how are we going to work with JCRs and societies? Yeah, okay. So as an ex-JCR president and a current JCR member still, I know how to engage JCRs. I know exactly what JCRs are after. You get direct access to JCR presidents as LUSU president, and I know what I wanted in that room, so I'd like to bring that to the table. In terms of societies, we've got an activities officer that is specifically for that, just as the president is specifically for JCRs.
Adam?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, JCRs, I feel, aren't actually respected by the university. Bowl and Bar was closed without the consultation of the JCR staff. That's ridiculous, right? If we can work with JCRs, and we should work with JCRs, right? But that isn't just about like opening dialogue, right? Societies are also under attack by the university. I don't know why they get so little funding. It's actually a joke, right? Societies, they have to fight over absolute scraps, right? And that's having a real effect on societies. So attacking those issues is fundamental.
Thank you very much. I'll move to Ben, please.
To Ben.
Please. Cheers, Jack.
I think fundamentally with GCRs and societies, we need to support but not control. I think too often LUSU is failing to support them, failing to give them the materials they need, to give them the advice they need. But there's also trying to control them. Like currently LUSU is trying to forcibly take control of all societies' bank accounts. Now this is something that's working for a lot of societies, but a lot of societies don't want this. They don't want this to happen. And it's not right to do it forcibly.
Yeah, thank you.
I feel like I've got a unique perspective on this matter. I am formerly a college president. I'm now a sports club that's also a society president. And I also represent the whole of college football to the SU and Sports Committee, this means it is my job to ask college presidents what they want, what they think, what they want their union to look like. So therefore, I feel like I know what societies are looking for, what sports clubs are looking for, what JCRs are looking for. They're looking for greater autonomy, transparency.
Thank you very much, Ollie. And the final one, and no, I did not pick this. This is just in the laptop in front of me. How, as president, would you ensure that LUSU works towards environmental justice? Start with that.
Yeah, I mean, the problems of the environment are incredibly serious, but I think they're often thrust upon the individual, right? These are largely systemic issues. There was like a plastic straw ban. Okay, that's fine. That's 0.025% of plastic waste in the ocean. You know, 56 companies in the world produce half the plastic waste in the ocean. You want to fix the environmental issues, you expropriate the big monopolies, you put them under the control of the working class, who will ensure that there will not be an environmental crisis.
I'm going to pass it over to Ollie, please.
I definitely believe that the climate crisis is real, of course, and it is something that I believe should definitely be a priority for the union. I mean, recently the union has made great steps. In 2019, there was a carbon footprint report that said they emitted 70,000 tonnes of CO2 greenhouse gas emissions. The most recent one is 1,900 tonnes. Now, there is a lot of way to go to make sure that this does go to zero. But it's definitely something that I'd be willing to work towards to support student groups in order to do this.
Thank you very much, Ollie. Over to Rory, please.
Yes, so it's about working with societies and JCRs in a way that it is accepted by societies and JCRs. Currently, there have been impositions of you can only do this now and you can only do that now without any kind of consultation, and that causes backlash. And so it's consulting as you go to make sure that everyone is aware of the changes being made to reducing your carbon footprint. The university is the bigger body here, and so it's also making sure the university is held to account in terms of its carbon footprint.
Thank you very much, Rory. And lastly, Ben, please.
Said the word campaign so many times, but I've been an environmentalist campaigner. I want to see my campaigns go forth, hopefully. I also think we've got such a wide range of great research coming out of this university, such an amazing LEC department, and many of them are coming forth with environmentalist campaigns that we need to support, and we also need to consult on them about what is the moves we should be doing. We're not experts on it, but we do have experts here that we should be consulting.
Thank you very much, Ben. So that brings us to the close of the presidential questions. It's just worth saying that the questions that are submitted online, if you did have any questions submitted online, they are going to be distributed to the candidates so they can answer them in their own time. And of course, the same thing that I said to the wellbeing candidates or around the wellbeing candidates is this isn't the only forum that you can come in and speak to these candidates and ask them questions, so please do use those. But I'll pass over to Ella to close it off.
Thank you everyone for coming in person and to those online as well. A special thank you to LA1 TV for doing all of the video stuff and everything. Yeah. Thank you to all the candidates. There's a lot of candidates, so I won't go through all your names, but everyone that's you've seen before you. If there's anything that wasn't covered, either you've pre-submitted a question or something else, do feel free to get in touch with them. Don't forget to vote as well. Voting opens tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then closes on this Thursday at 6 p.m. So don't forget to vote and then come to the elections night on Friday evening. Thank you very much.